What's up, everybody? Steven here, the Horror Freak 85. Here with co-host Patrick tonight and our guest of honor, Joe Lynch. How you doing tonight?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Great. Thank you for coming on. I've been waiting for this. So
my pleasure. Although your background is freaking me out because it's not moving at all. So it's obviously a virtual background. Now Patrick's got a very fantastic natural. I respect it. I believe it. There could be someone who can be coming in through the door behind you. Steven, on the other hand, I don't know what the fuck is going on there. Yeah, like it's a little weird. You know, your background looks like blue screen circa 1985. It looks like Howard the Duck effects, but that's okay. That's all right. Exactly. My background is mine is as natural as it gets. So
natural.
If feathers start coming out of Steven's screen, I'm out of here.
Kind of reminds me when I was watching Holliston earlier, the first episode. It kind of reminds me of the movie crypt scene in the background when talking about Pet Sematary, that first episode.
Oh yeah, God! Anytime that Holliston comes up, it's always a trip because it was in such a particular time in both Adam's life and my life, and everybody who was in it. Obviously, Dee and Dave, God rest his soul. God, I don't know if I'm going up here or down there with Dave Brocky or Odorous. So
he's in the middle. Odorous down there. Yeah. Dave is up there, I guess. I don't know.
He's in Odorous. He's in Guar Purgatory.
Yes.
But it was really it was a special time in our lives, and people keep asking when's there going to be a season 3? And of course, at this point, if fucking Frasier can come back, any show can come back at this point. I'd say. So who knows? Right. But it's always interesting to have that, it's a time capsule, would we have loved to have had more episodes? It was kind of against it was in a weird sort of way, it was completely against our will, between Dave dying and Adam going through a divorce at the time and then FearNet collapsing all in the span of a week. I don't know if that's the stars telling us something. I don't know, or the cinema god saying, not so fast, boys. But still one of the best times of my life, and and anytime that there's a joke that comes up, if we do a con or a screening or something like that, and someone brings up Market Basket or something, it's both PTSD, but also it's oh, good memories, man. It really was. It was one of the best times we've ever had doing anything creative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I got to work with Dave myself when he was in Guar. He played at a venue that I booked, and we had him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Palo Alto, California. Came out there. We had to tape our entire venue, which could hold 1,000 people. We had to go around and tape everything in plastic because of all the effects that they use.
All the fluids, man. I had one of the best show experiences I've ever had at a Guar show, at a rock show, any kind of show. Was we went to what was it? We went to the House of Blues in Hollywood, and Guar plays the shows all the time. Hi, Steven. And when we were there, this was at the time when Heroes was on, right? Remember Heroes?
Yes.
So Mila Ventimiglia and Hayden Panettiere were dating at the time, and she was a cheerleader. And he had convinced her because I guess through Adam, because they were friends, they had gone to the show. So we saw them and holy shit, it's the cheerleader. Well, guess who else saw that it was the cheerleader? Odorous Urungus. So he proceeded to veer his genital fluid stream, the cunniling, what is it, the cuttlefish, and points it right at her and sprays her right in the fucking face.
Oh, shit.
Now, Milo, being the good boyfriend, got in the way oh, no, hold on, I'll get you. But the whole time he's looking at us and we're looking at him. We're this is amazing. Holy crap. I can't believe we're watching Odorous Urungus from Guar squirt the cheerleader in the face. That's Hollywood, baby.
Squirt the cheerleader, squirt the world.
Oh, exactly.
How did Hayden take that? Was she aware
in the
who
face? No. She look. I don't know if she was fully aware what a Guar show entailed. She did very much. No. I mean, when you see people who walk in with white shirts, completely white shirts with nothing on it, that they're ready to become a Picasso. Because they're going to get multicolored fluids all over them. They're going to look like an extra from Street Trash. So they're fully aware of it. Not everybody realizes that there is a very wide splash zone when it comes to going to a Guar show. Me, I've been murdered by Guar multiple times at this point, which is always an honor. So I go knowing, all right, that black t-shirt that I'm wearing, I'm probably never going to wear it again. So fuck it. I might as well wear it tonight because it's probably not going home with me. It's going to get thrown in the trash.
Or eBay, right? Here we go. Here's an authentic Guar
Either
shirt.
are. Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah, I actually stayed away from the food. I worked the front door, and then I went behind to what they call into the backstage area. I was backstage, so I avoided getting squirted on, but I sure as hell enjoyed the hell out of watching them play. They were great.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, even when we lost Dave, when they continued on with the new singer and the new lineup and everything, they're still fantastic. They still know how to keep the Guar the Guar torch alive, if you will. They're still rocking out, man. I'm so proud of them.
Speaking of sequels, we're talking about sequels, and one of the things, I'm sure you get asked. Do you get asked more about sequels than you do about your upcoming original work? Do people come to you and talk to you like, Joe, when are you going to make this movie a sequel? Or do they talk to you and say, what do you got coming up next? What do you?
No,
what do you get out
lately
of that?
it's mostly been, Joe, can I have fries with that? Or Joe, how do I tip you on Uber? No, I'm kidding. No, honestly, like having started out, funny enough, today is the anniversary. I think it's like the 17th anniversary of Wrong Turn 2. It came out a long time ago. It feels like, which feels like yesterday that it came out on the DVD and Blu-ray at the time. No, actually, no, it was just DVD, which is mind-boggling to me that the movie is still kicking around, which is unbelievable. And usually I get, why didn't you do 3? Or fuck you, you had to make 2, and because then there was 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and it's all your fault because you kind of kept the torch alive. Sorry. But that's usually like one of those when it comes to sequels. When it comes to like my original stuff, no, it's not that it's not as much. It's just I always feel like, with Everly, that was kind of a closed loop. We did talk a little bit about what would happen if the little girl at the end of Everly, spoiler alert, she lives, if we would continue on with her story. And I said, it's kind of like with Kill Bill Part 1, where when her daughter, Vivica Fox's daughter, who's in the movie in Kill Bill 1, when she's like, someday if you're still burning with that vengeance, you come find me. That's a perfect sequel to that movie to bring her back. I was like, that's what I would want to do with Everly. So that's the only way that I would do that sequel, because who knows? Did she live? Did she die? Who knows?
I thought Mayhem, when at the end of the movie for me, I thought she was still alive.
I don't know. You know what? Like I like to leave it open ended. With Mayhem, that felt like we got approached to do sequels for Mayhem because like originally I love the idea of just taking that virus and putting it anywhere. And there was a minute, like the week after Mayhem came out and was doing really well, where RLJ was like, can we do a sequel to this? And this was, we had already, sold the deal to Shudder, so it wasn't out yet. But it did, the theatrical run, but it was doing really well on DVD. So they were talking about, let's consider a sequel. And I had thought, and this is years before Black Friday came out and Thanksgiving came out, I was like, what would happen if the ID7 virus hit the night after Thanksgiving at a Target, and let her rip? And they're like, that's fucking great. How do we bring Steven Samara back? And that's what soured it for me, because I'm like, do you remember The House on Haunted Hill? And there was one character in The House of Haunted Hill. I'm trying to remember who it was, who was the actor. But they brought her back for The Return to the House on Haunted Hill. Any movie like that where they have one recurring character comes back, it worked once, and it's called Aliens. There's a legitimate reason why Ripley came back, because there was the threat of whatever happened on LB426 or whatever, and there was families involved. the terraformers and everything, and she had an obligation to save them. Otherwise, I'm not going anywhere near any form of fucking danger zone. I'm not going back to anywhere there's going to be a fucking virus or a haunted house or monsters back in the woods. You got to have a really legitimate reason why you're going to bring your protagonist back into that circle of danger. And when they said that about Mayhem, I was like, that's what I would love to do, but I don't want to do it with those two characters, And they were like, well, we have to bring those guys back. And this is before, Steven had done Burning or Samara had Ready or Not. So, they were kind of on the rise, but they weren't quite the movie stars that they are today. So it felt like for a moment there was a chance that we could bring them back into the fold. But honestly, I was like, I would rather not do that and just leave it alone. And that's what, and now it stands alone, and I'm very proud of it. With Point Blank, well, unless Frank Grillo dies, there's no reason for me to do that fucking movie. So there's that.
Well, what about bringing Cheetah back?
Oh, well, Cheetah's got his own spin-off series.
I was going to say spin-off, right?
Yeah, that's a spin-off series like the Penguin. Absolutely. 100%. Suitable Flesh, we've been discussing sequel ideas for that one. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on internally, like with the business side of things, that I don't know if that will happen or not. But we always did. We had a clear. My writing partner and I have been, we've mapped out, like, if this happened, what would happen. And all I'll say is this: it is fucked. If you thought Suitable Flesh was twisted, this one twists it even further. So I don't know. We'll see. Honestly, I like if you feel like the movie has the type of story that justifies continuations in terms of where the story wants to go. Excellent, great, but also make sure that your film can stand on its own. Like I'm not a fan of movies that feel like the worst thing in the world that I've heard lately is it's a franchise starter. No one wants to hear that, because if you set that up, then you're only asking for disappointment when it doesn't happen. It's like doing a season 1 of a show and it gets canceled. No one is ever going to go back. I can't stand that. I deliberately don't watch shows that have been out, a year or two. If I know that the show's been canceled, if it's like on Deadline.com, it's like, oh, this show's canceled. I'm like,
well, no. What's the point?
Why do I want to invest in that? Because that the showrunners and the writers have been thinking long term. They're always supposed to think long term. Unless you see limited event series, that show is looking to continue that storyline. If it gets cut off in the past, that's like watching the first 30 minutes of a movie and going, "Oh, we're done." You're like,
"Yep,
no, wait, hold on," So
that was me with watching anything on Sci-Fi Channel. I never invested, or Fox. I never invested any time in either one of those two stations because they always put the shows so fast. I didn't want to get invested in it and only to have it taken away. So I never followed. I never followed those channels for that.
Well, even Fox, like Mantis and Birds of Prey, and there's like
Birds of Prey I watched, and I was like, oh, I don't know. I will say this: one of the more recent shows that I watched, kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop in terms of canceling, and it never did, and I was both like so excited but also really scared, was Chucky. And what's funny is that I shouldn't have liked that show as much as I did because I was so close to directing 2 episodes for that. And then because of COVID, and they were shooting up in Calgary, they were like, we can't have we got to have local directors. I'm like, son of a bitch. Like, stupid.
And they
COVID.
canceled it after the 3rd season now, I'm like, oh, that's.
But the thing is, like, so I watched that show going, like, at first I was like, stupid show. And I love Don. I absolutely love him and everybody who's involved in the show. I love all those directors. They put a great team together. It was a little incomplete, but still they did a great fucking job. But watching the show, within like the first 2 episodes, I'm like, son of a bitch, the guys did it. This is such a quality show. And every season I kept going, there's no way that the show's going to get another season. Not because it's like not good. It's just, it's almost too good. It was too good for its own good. And every season it was like, oh my God, they did it again. They're doing it again. Like, and then this last season, which it might be my fault. It's the first time that I went, of course we're going to get a third season. We're fine, guys. Come on. Like, you've made it this far. Chucky's going to space, of course. And then the fucker gets canceled.
Because this is the year you believed. This is the year you believed that it was coming back.
It's all my fault. It's all my fault.
Hey. I did want to ask you, before you met Adam and everything, how did you meet Adam? Did you go to film school first? How did you guys meet up and get into business together?
I went to film school. He went to film school. We went to different film schools. I went to Syracuse University up in upstate New York. And Adam, even though he was a resident of Boston, a bit of a masshole, he went to Hofstra, which is funny enough, ironic enough, was right maybe about 20 minutes away from where I grew up in Long Island. So he went to Hofstra and, was a total frat douche. And I was the nerdy guy that lived in the basement in Syracuse. And then years of us in divergent ships passing in the night or whatever. And it was in 2007, early 2007, when I had finished Wrong Turn 2. And we were on the precipice of when Fox was deciding whether or not we were going to go theatrical. They did a test screening of us and a test screening of The Hills Have Eyes 2, the remake. And I guess I never got these numbers, but we tested higher supposedly. And they were like, why are we not putting that version out? And that's when Wes Craven said, hold on. There's a contract that says that we have to go theatrical with The Hills Have Eyes Part 2, the remake, which I can't deny that. I mean, there's nothing I could do with that. Although I will say with The Hills Have Eyes 2, there was no dog flashback in the remake of the sequel. Sorry, there's my quibble. But so the film was done. We were kind of just waiting to find out what the release date was. That was when this guy named Spooky Dan Walker, he's kind of like an ambassador of horror here in LA. He's one of those guys that like everybody gravitates towards. And he just started having these screenings, in his backyard, where he would invite all of these different horror directors, horror actors, producers, like just kind of anybody who had any association with the horror genre at that point. And that's kind of where the Fright Club started. There was this like clique of people and it was pretty big, of all these just horror creators. And we were all just kind of part of this clique where we would show up on, I think it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday night, and Spooky Dan would program an old movie, but also in most cases he would have directors who might not have the movie out yet, or they were like an import. They were over, like there was a movie called Severance that came out a couple of years ago, this British film that Andy Nyman was in. It hadn't been released yet in the States, or they showed Behind the Mask at one point. And one night they were showing Hatchet, and I had heard of Hatchet through the grapevine. People were talking about it. I think it might have just hit Tribeca at that point. So people were talking about it. And the way that the screen was set up, so here's the screen right here, and then there was like half of the seats over on this side and half of the seats over on that side. I was on the right side, Adam was on the left side. And here it is, me being Mr. Comedy Guy. I'm like making them laugh over here on the right side. Everybody's laughing over here. And then I hear on the other side, I hear this other guy who's making people laugh over there. And I'm like, who the fuck is this dude? So I eye him, and I'm like, And then he probably eyed me and went, There was like split screen, and we're both like staring at each other like,
You were scanning each other, right?
We were totally scanning each other. Then the next time that we had a screening, we sat next to each other purely to suss each other out. It's like, keep your friends close and keep your enemies closer, right? Within 10 minutes, we realized, oh my God, this guy's fucking cool. No, this guy's not a total douche. Let's keep talking. And that turned into us just kind of hanging out a little bit more casually. Then it was the year that Wrong Turn 2 got into Fright Fest. And I found out that Adam had actually, because I had shown him and Dave Parker, I showed him the finished version of Wrong Turn 2, and they really liked it. So he recommended it to Fright Fest to see if it would get in. And lo and behold, it got, like, I guarantee they would have never given it the time of day if Adam hadn't said something. the movie spoke for itself after that, but because they're very discernible when it comes to horror movies. But they had said like we really love this, we'd love to play it. Never in a million years did anyone think that movie would play a film festival, let alone a kind of prestigious film festival like Fright Fest. And I found out later on the flight over there that the reason why Adam did that was because he hates to fly and he needed someone to sit next to that he knew. So that was purely calculated on his part, so that I would be the guy that he would sleep on his shoulder, or like I would be his like human pillow, so that he wouldn't be stuck next to some stranger. And then from there, we completely bonded when we were out there, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
Now, did you talk to him first, didn't you? I know you did. I know you went there. I bet you talked to Adam first.
Oh yeah, I'm usually the guy that breaks the ice. Like that's something that I just always remember from being even grade school. Like if it would be in a new class or a new job or whatever, I'd be the douche who. And what's funny is that I would use movies to do that. Like whether it was seeing that someone's wearing a RoboCop shirt, or even if it was like a band, I'd go, hey, that band has a song on the Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4 soundtrack. I would always find a way to weave movies into the conversation so that you can kind of break the ice a little bit, but also engage and find out what that person likes. I think maybe that has dimmed a little bit, but for the longest time, cinema was our great bridge. It was a conversation starter. It was the great relator. It was a way for people to figure out and kind of taste make each other, or figure out like, could I talk to this person? Could I hang out with this person? Does this person like, Battle Royale? Does that person like Amelie? Like could we all hang out together and not be like, oh, I only watch, Judd Apatow comedies, nothing wrong with that. But if that's the only kind of movies that you watch, I don't know if we can be completely friends. Maybe we could, but cinema was always a way for me to communicate. Shock of shocks, I'm an incredibly shy person, right? But like, for example, when my wife Becca and I, who we were out in Vegas last weekend for Joe Bob's Jamboree, and I really wanted to go. It's been years that like I've wanted to go, and this was the year I was finally able to go. And they had said like, hey, if you come out, like we might call you up there and stuff. I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Immediately, my social anxiety was like, oh God, I hope I don't screw up. But the second you get there and you start hanging out with like-minded mutant family people, you start realizing like you're all in it together. You all love John Carpenter movies. You all love Bride and Frankenstein. Like maybe some of you like Evil Dead 2 more than Evil Dead 1. But then you have that conversation.
I gotta put on one thing about John Carpenter. We all love John Carpenter, except for maybe Ghost of Mars, not so much. But
okay, I won't disagree with you there. I would say that what is it, Village of the Damned? That might be my least favorite out of all of them. There's something weirdly rewatchable about Ghost of Mars. Only because I think it's when you think about the hopes and dreams of what that movie could have been, which was supposed to be Escape from Mars. That like there's like vestiges of it. There's little whispers of what that movie could have been. That's the only reason why I go, you know what? I'll throw that on again. I remember seeing Village of the Damned, and I remember never seeing Village of the Damned again. Out of all the Carpenter movies that I've seen, and I've seen a lot, that is the only one that I've seen once, and I will never see it again. Now, look, I can sit here and jibber jabber away about my life. I like talking about movies. I know you guys like to talk about movies.
I
know you hate it. I know you hate movies.
No, not that at all. I have one question that I did ask you this, but I never got like a detailed answer because it's Twitter. But there is one thing I have to say, and me and Steven talked about this. You have one gift that is utterly remarkable, and that is that's not me.
You're
somebody talking in there.
Testing 1 2. Okay. Well, no, I don't have my sound on at all. But I want to say one thing that's been incredible, and that is, how the hell do you get the cast that you get? Is it because you talk to them like you're talking to us? You go out, you'll write down the guests that you
magic lips, baby, magic lips. I know how to just use those lips like nobody's business, man. Like it's learn how to use those lips in Hollywood, baby. No, honestly, if I can answer that one as like honestly as possible, I'm dealing with this right now on a project that I can't talk about, but it's let's just say that it's very much a cast contingent sort of project, and I'm sitting there looking at the cast that we have so far, going, holy shit. Honestly, I think there is a relatability, and that always helps with other actors. Like I think that anytime that I've talked to, let's say, Salma Hayek or Heather Graham or Stephen Yeun or Anthony Mackie, or like, I mean, and I even say those names and go, holy shit, it all comes down to relatability and and excitement for the project too. Like I cherish any moment that I get to make a movie is a small miracle, and I bless the cinema gods that I get to do it. And that is, I mean, I think that's infectious to other people because they've seen directors who don't give a shit and see it as just like a job. So they want to hang out with people who want to be there, not people who have to be there. But also, I think it's partially due to the fact that I'm an actor myself, or actor, I guess. And when you can talk to another actor, not like when you're in your first meeting with them and you're not talking about shots, but you're talking about their character beats, and you're talking about things that like actors enjoy to talk about, not just themselves, but their process, that goes really far. So, and the material, honestly, like, all the way down on that list is it a decent script? And do they see your vision for it? Like that, the first thing that I can remember anytime that I was like, when I was casting my first film which was Wrong Turn 2. We got a great casting director, Nancy Nayer. She's gone on to do many movies. She was already doing many movies. And when we were casting for the Dale part, the way that it was written was, I think at one point I'd even said in the room, I said, I want a cross between, Jeff Probst and, the drill sergeant from R. Lee Ermey from Full Metal Jacket. And I went, I want to have like a Henry Rollins type, because I know he can do that kind of part. And Nancy goes, why don't you just call Henry Rollins? And I'm like, can we do that? And she's like, yeah, hold on. Assistant calls. He comes in the next day, and immediately when we were talking, we weren't talking like I was the boss and he was the actor. We were talking like two creative people. That's it. That's all it was. And he went, okay, Joe, I'm doing your movie. That was it. And every single film that I've done, every TV show that I've done, like I think you have to know the acting pool out there to be able to say, like, you know what, here, perfect example. When we were making Mayhem, they give you a list, especially when they're trying to make a movie with like a cast that's going to get the movie made. They give you a list of actors who are bankable that will get the movie greenlit, right? And I looked at the list and I'm like, this is all a bunch of fucking white guys, and it's all really boring. No offense to white guys, but they were all really boring.
Yeah, but you did have an ace, and I remember talking to you about this too. In fact, I think it's the first time I ever talked to you on Twitter, and it was because of Mayhem. And in it, I'm watching it, and then you cast Carrie Fox in that movie.
Oh, of course, because she was in Shallow Grave.
Carrie was. I mean, I've seen her do several serious roles, including Storm. And I just saw her as this incredibly gifted dramatic actress. And then I saw her do Mayhem. And I remember seeing her like, how the hell did he get her? How did he get her? And I remember coming up to her and saying, how did you land her? Because this is something you would never see Carrie Fox do.
Okay. All right. Then you know what? You've unlocked my secret code. And my secret code is this. Always go with the deep cut. Now, I watch a lot of movies. I am on Letterboxd all the time. I even got it open right now. and Letterboxd is like, you know, it's the only social media thing that I really enjoy looking and using or whatever, but I usually use it as a tool. And if you go on there, you can see, holy shit, Joe has this year alone watched 392 movies, right? I watch a lot. Okay. Hi, Jim. I am not doing an Abel Ferrara impression tonight. You son of a fucking whore. That's not Abel Ferrara. But the point is that I watch a lot of movies, and I watch them like homework. I've done this since I was a little kid. I write down notes of shots that I love. I write down actors that I go, that actor's really good. And I've seen this happen before, and I've used it, and maybe it's a little strategic, maybe, but when you have an actor like Carrie Fox, you know, when we were making Mayhem, you know, they had this list, and I was like, throw that list out. I don't think anybody in there is exciting. But you know who could be really awesome in this is Glenn from The Walking Dead. And it was right after he died the first time, and Twitter melted and social media went like fucking crazy. And we were looking for that everyman. I'm like, that's our everyman. That's the guy, you know? So that's how we got Steven. Samara, I had seen on an episode of Ash versus Evil Dead when she had cockroaches poured down her crotch.
Oh,
and
that's
I'm like, anybody who can have cockroaches poured down their crotch by Sam Raimi, I want to fucking work with that person. So it was because of it, like a somewhat obscure TV show. That's where I validated hiring her. Carrie Fox, I had seen in 2 movies. It was Shallow Grave and this somewhat sexy movie called Intimacy, but it was Shallow Grave that I remembered her from. So when they sent this list, I went, oh my God, is that Carrie Fox from Shallow Grave? And I got on the phone with her and I went, all right, please, can we just talk about how amazing Shallow Grave is? And within minutes, we were just like vibing, and that was it. You know, she had done many movies since,
Yeah.
but it was that deeper cut, because at the time, this is 2016, there were no copies of Shallow Grave around. It wasn't available. It wasn't readily available. So I had to kind of dive back into when I saw it on Laserdisc back in the 90s, but I remembered it. And when you can have that conversation and you start asking questions about certain choices that they made back in 1995 when they were making a movie with Danny Boyle before he was Danny Boyle, there's that relatability, and immediately their guard goes down. And next thing you know, you're going, so you want to do this movie? Yeah, let's do this movie. And there you go.
That because I'll put that on your letterbox though. Look up and watch Storm. You'll really.
Oh no, I know it. All right,
good.
wait. Now I'm recommending a movie, and not just to you, but to everybody who's listening. You know, for both of your fans that are out there listening or watching, who knows? Have you guys ever seen Someone's Watching Me?
Oh, Tom Berenger.
It sounds familiar, but I don't know if
that wasn't Tom Berenger.
It's the TV movie that John Carpenter did the same year as Halloween with Lauren Hutton and Adrienne Barbeau. It's on Criterion right now. Criterion Channel is the greatest fucking streaming channel of all time, next to Shudder and all the other ones. But my wife and I watch Criterion all the time. They have so many horror movies on there. They have like a Stephen King section, a Giallo section now, but there's a horror TV movie section. And I have been trying to find this movie for decades. It is on there now. It's called Someone's Watching Me. And it's kind of like a Rear Window movie. It looks like a TV movie from the 70s. It sounds like one. It even has that thing that every TV movie back in the 70s and 80s had, where at the end of the movie, it's a freeze frame and it says like executive producer, Howard Koch. You're like, oh, okay. Yeah. This is an extended TV episode. One of the scariest things I've seen in a long fucking time, man. Holy shit. The last 20 minutes, both of us were like, it was genius. And this was a TV movie. It was like, it was Carpenter's Duel. That's essentially what it was like. Because obviously he probably had 7 days to shoot the movie. He was probably hired because there was this indie movie with a guy in a mask that was coming out. It literally came out in the theaters. It's nuts. Highly recommended. Definitely check it out. Okay, there you go. There, I'm done.
Yeah, I just love the process. And the thing is though, it seems so simple, right? It seems so simple, and you would think other directors would pick up on that. Like, I mean, has that ever happened to you? Have you ever had any of your peers come up to you and sit there and say, "How did you get so and so to do your movie?" Because maybe they tried to get a Selma Hayek or
Heather Graham, or yeah.
Heather Graham and not be able to get it. Did they ever come up to you and say how? Because I always felt like your casting, and I don't mean any. I just mean this purely as a compliment. But your casting is you punch way above your weight. I mean, you're landing.
No, I
people,
dude, I say the same thing. I'm always saying like, how the fuck did I get this cast?
Yeah.
A lot of times it's also luck. Like one of the regrets that I have, not regrets, but like, there's always going to be like every director can go through and say, who almost was in this movie, who almost was that in that movie. The list is vast. It would fill up every trivia section in every IMDb listing ever, right? Because I can go back and I can go like Suitable Flesh, for example. Funny enough, Heather was really like one of the first choices, ever. Like that's fucking crazy. I just went back and thought about it because when that list came out, when the producers gave us a list, and this is where Barbara Crampton is a great producer, was that she backed me on this from the jump. Was that the other producers were like, oh well, we got to get someone who's in their 20s because that's more bankable, or maybe early 30s. And funny enough, because Barbara played a 20-something psychologist in From Beyond, I was like, all right, I'm going to tell you right now, everyone gave that movie shit because she went from a co-ed in Reanimator, and then all of a sudden she's a 6-year veteran of the psychology department at Miskatonic. And what did they do? Just threw fucking glasses on her? Get out of here! Like that's bullshit. Even when I was 12 and I was like goo goo gaga over hot blonde Barbara Crampton, I was still like, it doesn't quite check out, So I was able to use that as an example and say, guys, we need someone who's older, someone who's lived a life, who's lived in that version of her skin, so that she could dally onto and see what the grass is like on the other side. You can't have someone who's in their late 20s, early 30s to make the decisions that she did. So with Heather, it was kind of like, that makes total sense. So that was like an easy kind of put at the top of the list, right? But when it comes to some of the other actors, like, for Ephraim Waite, the old man, look, we came this close to getting Chris Sarandon to play that part, and then we came this close to getting Tom Atkins to play to play that role. Either one of them, if I could go back in time to 1986 and say, holy shit, you're going to work with the vampire from Fright Night, or you're going to work with Tom Atkins, the guy from fucking Halloween 3 and Night of the Creeps, my head would have exploded, So there's always going to be like those near miss moments. And in those two cases, both of them was it was just scheduling, and happened with Jeffrey Combs as well. Jeffrey was going to play the patient in one of the in like this cameo, like right in the beginning of the like in the middle of the movie. We'd even written it for him, and then it just came down to, sorry guys, like I got a convention that weekend, and to him, no offense at all, but like he's going to probably make more money at the convention than he is going to be making, coming in, flying in for one day and doing this dinky movie. So it's a lot of times it's timing. A lot of times it's luck. Sometimes, an actor will be doing this big movie. Like there's a movie that I'm doing now where this one actor had a huge movie fall through, and then his reps are like, well, he wants to work. What else you got? And then this just so happened to read our script and go, oh shit, I like this. He would have never looked at that script if said huge movie had not gone. Dude, it's the weirdest business in the world. It all comes down to luck, and timing.
You really do. You have the Midas touch. I've been watching movies for years. I have never seen anybody that has been on the cast the way you have. It's really it's incredible. And I've always
Did I mention my lips? Did I mention my
the magical lips? Yes.
perfectly delicious blowjob lips? They're amazing. So
can you explain that a little bit more though for us?
The blowjob lips? Well,
No,
it's kind of like you cup the balls more. Oh, sorry.
Going back to Heather, because Heather, even now, she's stunning. She's, she's what you would think is a leading lady. She's not she's a star. And to me, it's like, okay, how did you get her to do this role? I mean, it seems like as soon as she did Suitable Flesh, now it seems to be that has opened the door for her, and now here she is. She's doing a Western film, a Western horror film. She's doing some other movies that that you wouldn't even think about her doing, but now she is. But it seems like it started with you with Suitable Flesh. Well, why her and not why her? Why did you pick her?
Well, one of the things that I love about the casting process too is I love trying to find people, actors, even collaborators behind the screen. I love finding people that might not have gone to the dark side or done a movie like that. So, with Heather, up until that point, think about how many horror movies or horror related movies Heather had done at that point. Twin Peaks and From Hell. Roughly, that's about it. Maybe there's like a small indie movie here and there and stuff like that, but nothing of, no offense to those filmmakers, but nothing of any real significance. And she had done, if you looked at her filmography for the past 5 years, it was mostly rom-coms. It was mostly dramas and everything. And I was like, God, I would love to see her step out of her comfort zone. And that's another thing that we offer, or I try to offer, that you might not get from another type of project, is someone is at the steering wheel of a project that might be a little bit different, a little more fun, a little more edgy, a little more challenging, but they at least know that there's someone at the helm, myself and the collaborators that I have behind, that are working with me, that they're in good hands, that they're in safe hands, that they're not just using them to exploit them. That was the first conversation I had with Heather. I said, the last thing that I want to do is exploit your body, because, no offense, the way that my writing partner and I reworked that script was that the original script that Dennis Paoli wrote, and this is with all the respect in the world to Dennis, but it was a male gaze version of that story. The H.P. Lovecraft story was a male gaze version of that story. They were coming from two male perspectives, and to be honest, when I got that script, and this is in 2020, and it still adheres today, that's kind of tired. I'm sorry. Look, coming from a guy who is wielding a penis myself, hi, how's it going, pal? I am a little sick of the male gaze version of this type of flick. So, and my writing partner being female, we were both like, why don't we try to take a fresh spin on the erotic thriller, on the Lovecraft story, because both of those genres are very male skewed. So what if we flip it and not just to, and I've said this joke a million times, but you're going to get it again. It's not like, bursting down the door at fucking Warner Brothers and going, fellas, I got it. Lethal Weapon with chicks. That was a trendy thing a couple of years ago, and it didn't really work out because the story, there wasn't a good reason for it. Here, this felt like it was the right reason to skew Lovecraft towards the female gaze, skew those erotic thrillers where you're objectifying the men. If you look, if you've seen the movie, there's more shirtless dudes and dude butts than there are women, because but we justified it because the story that's being told, the majority of the story, from the moment that she says it was a dark and stormy night, diddle, and then we're going back and we're doing a flashback to the point where it gets crazy at the end. This is all Elizabeth Derby's story. So she's seeing it from her perspective, and she's not seeing herself naked with her titties hanging out. She's looking at this beautiful 50-year-old bear, or she's looking at this gorgeous hairless twink. That's how we shot it. We shot it deliberately to objectify the men. So you tell all this to an actor, and you show them that you have a legitimate reason to justify the sex in the movie or not justify the sex in the movie, and they see that you're being respectful to it. Like if I were them, I'd go, cool. Like you clearly have a vision. There's nothing worse than jumping on board a project with a filmmaker, whether it's the director, the writer, or whatever, and they don't have a vision. Because if they don't have a vision, they don't have a direction. If they don't have a direction, you're going to be off in no man's land. And in the end, you might be embarrassed with what ends up coming out. So I think Heather from that first meeting just knew, whether it was the lookbook that I had or even just the conversations that we had both with myself and the other writer, we just kind of knew that we knew what we wanted, and we conveyed that very clearly to them. And that's when she made the decision from the first meeting. She goes, all right, let's shoot. The rest is history again.
Yeah. I wanted to talk a little bit about Knights of Badass, Peter Dinklage, and Kyle. All of them were great, or graded. And I think Patrick was saying something about, you got a story about that too, I guess, or maybe something with production on that. Or
I got plenty of stories about that. And maybe some that I don't know if I want to tell because let's just say that there have been movements in finally getting the director's cut of the movie going. But again, and purely based on, it just so happens that the rights to the movie have landed on someone's plate who is not an asshole like the other people, and they're interested in making a buck off of this thing that there might be another version of, and yada, yada, yada. So you never know what's going to happen with that movie. So Steven, sorry, you might be waiting. You might be waiting for Knights of Badassdom 2 a little bit longer, but at the very least, there might be a proper version of that movie, because the cut that we submitted, the cut that we fought for, the cut that we tested, that like ultimately got taken away from us, is a wildly different film than the one that's out there now. The ending was completely different. The middle third, the middle act is completely different. There's, unfinished effects. And again, every filmmaker is going to be like, meh, boo-hoo. I've learned a very hard lesson, and that is, and this was mainly because, look, after Wrong Turn 2, this was poised to be my big breakout movie, and ended up being a very, very hard but valuable lesson that you just can't trust everybody with the money in this business. And they might be able to promise you the world, but man, you got to just be careful, because, that movie ended up being a Ponzi scheme. And, and look, I've bitched and moaned about it enough. The thing is, at the end of the day, who knows? The version that I directed could have been worse than the one that they made. And you know what? If and when that does come out, there's going to be plenty of people who are going to watch the director's cut and go, nah, I like the one that came out before. Like, for a time, I remember when when the director's cut of Blade Runner came out in the early 90s, and this was like, it's the same exact thing that happened to me happened to him. And not that I am Ridley Scott, but still, like, there was a long gap of time between when Blade Runner came out and bombed in '82 and when the re-release came out, which was a completely different cut, right, in the early 90s. And I remember people saying, I missed the voiceover from that version of Blade Runner, or I missed that cut. And who's really wrong? That is ultimately the best thing about the business and the art form that we're in, is that no matter what, I could make the greatest movie of all time. It's still going to be the shittiest movie of all time to someone. You don't know. That's what makes cinema so exciting and intriguing, is that there's going to be people look at the Joker, for example, right? Joker 2 came out this weekend, and man, there's just diarrhea being sprayed all over on that movie. Guess what? My wife and I saw it last night and fucking loved it. And not just to be contrarian, I genuinely loved what he was doing. Now, it felt like it was a big middle finger to a lot of people who might not have gotten what the point was, the first movie was. So this was kind of like, oh yeah, this is what you want? And the fact that, look, at the end of the day, the director of the Gigi Allen documentary made a $200 million fuck you to fanboys. That's what Joker 2 is. But the thing is, someone else is going to see that movie and see something completely different. And you know what? There's probably someone on here who's on the chat that's seen Joker 2 is like, that was the worst piece of shit I've ever seen. You know what? Agree to disagree. But again, at the end of the day, Knights of Badassdom is something that I'm proud I survived. And that cast was amazing. I was so lucky to work with that fucking cast.
I definitely love to see your cut, but you know, the cut that's out there, I'm glad we have it. You know, I definitely.
That's the thing. If this was,
no,
Patrick, if this was 10 years ago, I would stop you for 45 minutes on your busy day, and I would tell you, I would regale the trials and tribulations of Knights of Badassdom, and then you'd be like, dude, get the fuck away from me after a while. Like after 5 minutes, you'd be like, oh God, does he just shut up?
No,
now,
I've learned. I remember you and I had a discussion about this. You know, we did talk about it. That's how I knew about the history of the movie, because I remember our discussion about it. And I felt really bad. I still do. I still feel really bad for you. I think it's fucked up what happened to you. You know, and it ruined. You know, potentially. You know, it's sort of weird. It's like even though they ruined the movie in one respect, I'm still happy with the one I got. You know, because that movie it's a concept, and again, we can't ignore this. Again, casting. That cast is fire.
Here, okay, that's a perfect example. It's a domino effect. The fact that I worked with Steven Zahn and Peter Dinklage and Jimmy Simpson and Summer Glau and all those actors on that show, when agents see that you worked with all those actors, their butthole like unpuckers a little bit when they want to offer someone from their roster. So that's the best thing that could have come out of Knights of Badassdom was Everly, because when Everly was, I wrote and I shot Everly like an angry fucking dude. I had to prove myself after Knights of Badassdom. I felt like, because if you think about it, because the whole movie is set in one room, right? It's this woman who is stuck in this one room and she's shooting her way out. I was that guy shooting my way out of that room creatively. And I was really angry, and that I can watch that movie and I go, that's an angry fucking movie. I wouldn't have gotten Kate Hudson to play Everly. And you're going, Kate Hudson, what the fuck? Kate Hudson was originally cast in Everly. She was cast. We shot a trailer with her. That trailer's floating around somewhere, but she was cast in the movie. And up until the very last second, she was in. She wouldn't have done the movie if I didn't work with Peter Dinklage and Jimmy Simpson and all these other people that she knew. So that validated me for her to work with me. And then when she got cold feet and she got out, she ended up doing Glee. Salma Hayek went, wait, if it's good enough for Kate, then it's good enough for me. I want to do that movie. And that's why Salma did it, you know? So it's a domino effect.
Yeah.
It's sort of hard when you see how you cast, right? And you see those people like Everly, like it's weird, Joe. It's really weird. It's like you see them, and then you try to see another actor in that role in your movies, and you can't.
They're perfect cast.
Yeah, I can't see anybody else playing who you pick.
I know, like, and you just kind of that just happens in a way, you know, like you just kind of settle in. At first, I like to go from the seismic shift to go from, you know, Kate to Salma is like almost 180 degrees, you know, but as difficult as it was to make that movie in Serbia at the time, it was still gratifying, because like the moment that I called action to the moment I called cut, watching Salma do her thing like live was mind blowing. And then, you know, I'm throwing blood on her and there's entrails all over the place and she's getting chased by a bunch of Yakuza guys and 4 dudes who look like they were extras in Big Trouble in Little China show up, and like all the weird shit that we were able to do with that movie. Like I sit there and watch it and go, how the hell did we do that? And you know, Salma Hayek being in your movie allows you to do that, and she wouldn't have done it if Kate didn't do it, and Kate wouldn't have done it if the cast of Knights of Badassdom wasn't the cast of Knights of Badassdom. So, you know, and with Knights of Badassdom, like I got one of the best collaborators I was ever able to get with Ryan Quanten. I've worked with Ryan
And Creep Show
multiple
too. I was
times
gonna
now.
say about Creep Show, the
He
right stuff. Yeah.
still to this day, my favorite thing. Yeah, see, fucking A, man. Ryan is amazing. And I felt so guilty over, because again, Ryan and I were in this together. Like he had, a bunch of movies that were out, and he had True Blood and everything. But Nights was going to be his big breakout. So was mine. And when it didn't happen, it was heartbreaking, and I felt a responsibility to him to kind of make it up to him. So that's where Truth and Journalism came from. And that today, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a short that I did right after. Yeah, it was right after Nights of Badassdom. It was like a year or two after Badassdom, and I was still like really fucked up. And Adi Shankar, the guy who produced Dread and a bunch of movies, he had done the Punisher fan film that he made with Tom Jane and everything, and brought Tom Jane back as the Punisher. And then he brought me in and said, "Would you do one of these kind of like Marvel fan films?" I'm like, "Sure, whatever." And he's like, "Well, what would you do if I gave you 10 grand? No, not even. It was like 8 grand or whatever. What would you do with 8 grand?" I'm like, "I would do a short that was set in the Spider-Man universe, but it looks like Man Bites Dog, the 1991 pseudo snuff film from Belgium." And he was like, "All right, sure." And the whole time I'm going, because I love Venom. I'm a huge Eddie Brock fan. Somewhat of the Tom Hardy movies, just 'cause I love Tom Hardy. But like back in the day, Venom from like Spider-Man 299 into like all the other iterations, I was a huge fan. So I was like, who's gonna be my Eddie Brock? I called up Ryan and said, "Look, I want to work together with you again. Could we do this thing together?" He's like, "Yeah, mate, come over and we'll just have tequila." And went over, had tequila, and I pitched him the idea. He's like, he was fucking in. And watching that man do that role in that little short, that to this day, that's my favorite thing I've ever done, hands down.
Really?
I love how that. Oh yeah, 100%. It's one of the few times that I had absolutely 100% control over every choice. So every director is like, "That's my favorite," but I really like. I felt like everything paid off with that. And watching Ryan be Eddie Brock, was stunning. And then when Creepshow came along, and this crazy fucking idea of doing a retro sci-fi episode, I needed, and I was going through a lot of personal shit too. And this was like in the middle of the pandemic as well. So it was a very volatile time. And we had completely overhauled the script. I pitched to Nicotero. I'm like, "Look, I don't want to make this a modern sci-fi. I want to do it like retro sci-fi from back in 1968. So it's got those old values, but it has those old designs like Andromeda Strain and 2001." And he was totally in for that. But I'm like, I kind of need to have actors that I trust on set, because we're going to move real fucking fast. And I can't have any divas. And I need people that can be my buddies, and we just fucking go in together. Breckenmeyer, I worked with Frank Meyer, his brother, for a decade. So we were kind of vicariously friends. And then I said to my buddy, I said, "Hey, can you get me in touch with Brecken?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And then I called Quatin, and Quatin's like, "I'm in. Like, whatever you want, Joe, I'm in." So to have those two dudes on that set, I was able to get so much mileage out of that. When we shot that thing in 3 days, it was nearly impossible. And I was running back and forth between that set and the one with Barbara Crampton and Eric Edelstein, the Cloggy episode, the one with the moving piece of shit. So I was directing 2 episodes at a point in one day. It was nuts.
Yeah, the pipe
I didn't have
screams.
Ryan on that set. Yeah, I would have never been able to pull that off if it wasn't for Ryan Quandt. Any chance that I can get to work with that guy, I will always work with him. So
Nice. And I know you got coming soon, that we just saw the trailer for Tales from the Void. I want to say it's coming out.
Yeah. I got a couple more minutes, so I'm going to talk about Tales from the Void. So Tales from the Void is it's an anthology film, like series. I was brought in to be the director of the pilot. But when you have these anthologies, there's not really a pilot. It's kind of like all the episodes. Mine was up first, so hopefully I didn't fuck this up and everybody stops watching it after. But I don't think so. But it's all based on the No Sleep short stories that were coming out on Reddit and online and stuff. It was all these like creepypasta stories, but they were a little more sci-fi based. I had first talked to those guys, Francesco and John, God, back in like 2021. It was like right after the pandemic was really kind of in its throes. And they said, look, we have this anthology. I'm like, hey, I'm doing anthologies now on TV. If you got the money, let me know. And it just so happened that like finally in 2023, they got the money and we were off to the races. It was a completely independent TV show. Obviously it got picked up by Screenbox, but it was a delight. We shot it in Sault Ste. Marie in Canada, 3 days, very little resources, very little time, but again, just being able to do, because I'd never done anything like that before, where a lot of my stuff kind of revolves around humor or maybe harder edged genre. And this was like pure sci-fi, very little, kind of tongue-in-cheek humor, and there was no tongues hanging out of any cheeks. It was very kind of serious, and I had never done anything like that before. And I was like, I would love to do that. And what's great about those types of anthologies is that they kind of let filmmakers do things outside their comfort level. So, I love, like, some of my favorite filmmakers working today are the Addams Family. I don't know if you've seen any of their movies, but I love those guys. I think what they're doing is on a whole nother level, and they are just geniuses. The fact that they were brought in, the fact that Matty Go, another great fucking filmmaker, like, and Francesco too. I'd seen his stuff and I was like, man, this is really cool. So they were like, well, if you attach your name to it, then that kind of helps the project. I'm like, look, if it means that I get to help all these guys. No, Steven, you can't crash. What the hell? I need to crash. Man.
How can you crash during Joe?
Yeah, how dare you, sir? How dare you? I was just getting warmed up. I was just going to stand up and I was not going to stand up and expose myself. But anyway, if you get a chance, check out Tales from the Void. It's going to be on Screenbox starting on Sunday, October 13th. And then each episode will be every Sunday. Just check them out. And again, kind of like Creepshow, where if you don't like one of them, don't give up on the show, because it's just like the thing that's beautiful about those shows like Creepshow and stuff is that they allow, within the realms of like a general kind of thesis for the show, they allow filmmakers to have their own voice and try different things. Like my episode is almost completely different than Francesco's, the Fixed Frequency, the one that comes out after, and his is completely different than the Addams Family one. But if you like those kind of creepy stories, check it out. I think you'll like it. Mine was basically my big homage to Kubrick, which I'm a huge fan of. Who isn't a fan of Kubrick? Zulawski and Jonathan Glazer, who did Into the Void. I can't remember the title, but it's one of those sci-fi shows that like you don't know what you're going to get next week. So there you go.
Nice. And one last question before you go, I ask everybody, what's something about yourself fans may not know, whether other talents or interests or hobbies or anything you want to share that might be interesting?
He likes cheetahs.
Or collections or anything.
I feel like 11 years on the Movie Crypt that I've exhausted every single thing that I could possibly mention about. Okay.
You like cheetahs.
Here's something you might not. Of course I like cheetahs and Cheetos. I'm a huge classic musical fan, and that is not the reason why I like Joker so much. But I think part of this is because look, I mean, I've always loved every form of movie. I think horror and sci-fi and like genre stuff has always been in my blood, because I was always just a kid who just loved all of the like those. They don't make many music like magazines for like musical comedies or anything like that. They're like when you had Fangoria and you had Starlog and Cinefantastique and stuff like that, they didn't have like musical number weekly, but in the last like 5 or 6 years, I have been obsessed with musicals. Like I think they are an art form unto themselves. Vincenzo Minnelli Bob Fosse, if you haven't, I'm a huge Bob Fosse fan.
Yes.
Honestly, you wouldn't see it from this visage, but I just want to dance. Like I love that genre so much, and I think that's part of the reason why I was like kind of excited about the new Joker movie. The thing is, Todd Phillips doesn't shoot musicals the way that musicals used to be shot. They're just different, you know. Yes, Paul, I would love to make a musical. I would in a heartbeat. That's partially all right. So I'll leave you guys with this. I kind of did do a musical number, and that was the Faith No More scene in Mayhem. I knew it was always in the script that they were going to have this big fight with the accounting firm, the accounting team in the building, and at one point in the original script, it just said that Melanie puts on a song on her phone and puts it down, and dark synthwave starts playing. I'm like, no, not happening. I'm sorry, dark synthwave is not on my watch. I like dark synthwave. We all had our EDM phase. Maybe we still do. Who knows? You know, waiting for the drop. But like that was not going to work for this, and I knew that it would date it too. So, long story short, I had my favorite band of all time is Faith No More. I'd always wanted to work with them. I got to do a year before. I got to do a music video for them finally after years of begging. They loved the video so much that when I was in Serbia prepping for the movie, I had always planned on that scene to be set, like choreographed to a song, a very specific song. I just needed to find that song, but I wanted it to feel like a bit of a musical. I wanted the beats to be, you know, like the beats of the song to be part of the beats of the fists and everything. So I wanted to treat it like it was, without it being like just all wide shots and everything. I just wanted it to have a symbiosis with the music. So I'm, no joke, I'm in this flat in Serbia. It's 2:00 in the morning. I'm dancing around to various songs in my underwear, like Risky Business, if you can picture that. And nothing is coming, you know, nothing is working, nothing is syncing. And usually when you're a filmmaker and you hear that one song, you go, oh, that's it. Nothing was coming to mind. And I kept listening to songs, and I had it on random on Apple Music, and the song Motherfucker from Faith No More pops up. And I went, oh, that's it. That's the song. Holy shit. That's because you can hear the scene in the song. You can hear the buildup to the point where they start to fight. You can hear the crescendo moment, the chorus. It felt like a musical number. So, and it sounds so douchey, but this is exactly what happened. I had the manager from Faith No More on my phone. I texted him at 2:00 in the morning. Now it was like 11 a.m. in the States, but I was like, fuck it, might as well try. I texted him and said, hey, listen, heart face emoji, smiley face emoji. Any chance that, you know, like I could possibly, you know, use that favor you said that you were going to give me by seeing if I can get this song for cheap? Smiley face, send. And then not 10 minutes later, he texts back and says, Joe, you did that music video for Faith No More for us for like $1,500, and we loved it so much. You can have the song for free, like totally for free. That never fucking happens.
What is the average favorite band? What is the average cost for a single song to use in a movie, Joe?
About $200,000. And now, if you recall, in the movie, there's also 30 seconds of a Dave Matthews Band song. That's a whole nother story. You can look it up online. But because I basically stalked Dave Matthews Band for six months, I got the song for $75,000. That was like a friends and family rate, right? Faith No More gave that song away to me for free. So by having that song for free, I was able to go to the stunt coordinator and say, okay, here's the song. Okay, go forth, work with the actors, work with the stunt like the stunt people. I want, when I come on set and I show them all the shots that I want and everything, I want this to feel like we are listening to the song live while we were fighting. And that's what we did. We played that song like 16 times from all the different angles. But the actors were getting into it to the point where they were like, wait, hold on. And then they would punch because they knew that it was going to hit the beat, you know? So essentially, like, we just showed the movie at a video store on VHS like 2 weekends ago. and I hadn't seen the movie in a while, and I'm watching it on that screen and watching that scene back. I was so proud of it because I'm like, that's my musical. Like I got to do a fight scene that's choreographed like a musical, set to a song from my favorite band. Honestly, guys, that's what it's all about.
Nice.
Man.
All right, now I'm done. Now I'm out.
I know. Thanks. It's been great. Thank you so much.
I'm getting text.
So,
guys, thank you so much for having me on. We should do it again sometime.
Oh,
Hopefully
anytime. Talk movies, whatever. Yeah, of course.
Right. When I have something a little beefier coming out soon, I would love to come back because we got a lot still to talk about.
Oh, I could talk to hours to you, man. But,
so, Paul Duck Tucker, fuck you. You're the fucking man.
And Stephen Tang and everybody in here.
So is Valley Girl. Who else is here? That's you guys. All right. Well, we got a bunch of those people. So
and the replay people. Yeah, exactly. So.
Oh, all those guys. But thank you, guys. Keep doing God's work, and I will talk to you soon.
All right. Take care. Bye. All right, everybody.
Wow. Look at you, landed Joe Lynch like that, like a boss.
That's right.
That's right, man. Good job.
Yeah, Fangirl said that was fantastic. Thank you, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
And Echo and Paul, everybody. Yeah.
Thank you for supporting the show. That's share it out.
Yeah, because it being a Thursday night, and at this time, I usually don't do it. So I mean, not a bad turnout.
What's going on with the House of Horrors for the rest of October?
Working on it. I'll find some stuff out later. So yeah, I'm still. It's some surprises.
Yeah. Well, I had a blast. Thanks for inviting me to sit in on this. And I'm glad we're able to get through it without any power interruptions.
I know it had power. I'm like, yes, this is great.
See, now you have a memory when people talk about, remember when Hurricane Milton came over and fucked up the Florida, and you're sitting there going like,
oh yeah, I was talking to Joe Lynch.
Awesome night. I love the hurricane.
No, but everybody else who's like getting hit and having to flee, and I hope everything, everybody stays safe though, joking aside, because it's crazy. So
Right.
But yeah.
Well, young man, thank you again for letting me on. I've done 3 of these today, so I'm gonna go ahead and punch out of here and save whatever voice I have left for tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, and I don't know. I might watch some Holliston or something. All right. Take care.
His casting is really it's
oh
he
yeah.
He really is the best. I don't know how he does it. It really is perplexing. It's like there's so many more bigger movies.
And I'm sure, like, if we had more time, there's so many stories I would love to get from him, just talk. But yeah, I mean, but the hour was great, even whatever. So actually, hour and 10 minutes he stayed. He actually stayed 10 minutes after the hour.
That's because I asked about the music.
Yeah, the music. So.
Red.
Oh, and hey, like David Howard Thornton. And on that note, oh
yeah, on Terrifier 3 this weekend, isn't it?
Next week or this week, I might see it at the drive-in next week. A friend's gonna pick me up and see it in Dothan at the drive-in. Okay. So,
well, I'm hoping there's a scene in there where Art is having fun with a cat. No, he's a cat. He's a cat lover.
No, I'm saying use the cat to kill someone.
Oh, ooh, that's a good idea.
There we go. So, all right. Well, have a good night and see everybody Sunday I'm pretty sure. So, and I'll announce anything that's going on, of course, if anything changes. So, good night.
Peace.